Hello, this is John Massari. I'm the composer of Killer Klowns from Outer Space, and you're listening to Boston White. And you can hear all the horror happenings throughout the entire universe. So listen very closely.
Okay, so we told you guys that we were going to have a super special guest on today's podcast, and we were not lying. So right now we are joined by the super talented and a dear friend of mine, John Massari.
Good evening, everyone.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Or good every day, good every day in every part of the world.
Yeah, we are very spread out on this podcast today. Mm-hmm. How are you doing?
I'm doing very wonderful. I had a very interesting and productive morning. Nice. I'm working. I just finished a Western for the director Josh Becker, and I'm starting on a comedy. And my inbox was flooded with some very special news regarding this world here of Killer Klowns from Outer Space.
Yes.
Apparently, there is going to be a haunted house in both Orlando, Florida, in the USA, and also in California, just over the hill from me, south of me, at Universal Studios, Halloween Horror Nights. So sometime, I think it's September through November, we're gonna have the Killer Klowns from Outer Space. It's not a scare zone and it's not a walkthrough. It's a haunted house. So we're very excited about it.
Yes, they are finally getting the house that they deserve. So this is an exciting day.
Yes,
and we couldn't think of a better guest than you to share this joyous occasion with.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, I missed you when you were at the scare zone last year. And wasn't that fun? Is that people just wouldn't leave?
That was me. Every single time.
They would just
cut my videos, and it's just on and on Killer Klowns.
Right, and I got to tell you, I was so I can't tell you how heartwarming and touched I was that they not only used the music from the original soundtrack, they used music from my new reimagined soundtrack that has a combination of synth music and orchestral music. We had the finest musicians in the world play for me, and it was just a wonderful experience. And to know that it has a home and people were appreciating it every day was so incredible.
I bet. So I've got so many questions that I want to ask you today, and I'm sure that Nick and Luke do too. But before we get into any of that, we're going to start the show like we usually do with what we're drinking. So as our guest of honor, John Massari, what are you drinking today?
I am drinking the very excellent PG Tibbs tea prepared by my daughter in the proper English tradition.
Fantastic. The fanciest of drinks.
Yes, and I have my tea. And by the way, I usually have a big mug. Today I have a proper teacup.
Fantastically British. So we're going to be opposites today. It's very rare that we do video podcasts. It's very rare that I get to physically show you guys what I'm drinking, but I'm keeping it on brand with a Bud Light.
Oh my goodness gracious.
I've been trying for the longest time to get Bud Light to sponsor the podcast because it's all that I ever drink when we're recording. And I feel like people think that I exaggerate how much Bud Light I consume on a podcast, but physical proof.
It is.
Evidence. Okay, Nick, what are you drinking?
I've got two drinks because it's been so hot, and also it was hot all day, and it started raining before the record. So I actually went outside and opened up a can of Brewdog Indie, and I also have a big bottle of water with some ice in it because I really need to cool down.
Honestly, we're having a heat wave in England, and it is rough. Let me tell you, rough. Okay, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking a nice cup of water out of a Coca-Cola cup. Keeping it simple.
Product placement.
Yeah.
Okay, so, John, what I want to do, I want to talk about loads of Killer Klowns stuff later, but I want to hear a little bit about your story first. So I want to hear about how you got started in music composing.
Well, it started very young. I went to a triple feature. This was a while back, and the triple feature was The Time Machine, and these were movies that were made in the late 50s. And so we're talking about, I don't even want to tell you when I was 6 years old, but let's put it this way. We had not yet landed on the moon. So anyways, so we have The Time Machine, Mysterious Island, and a very classic, another Jules Verne special effects movie, which was The Seven Voyages of Sinbad. So I had all these three movies as my first experience, giant cinematic experience. Before that, I was watching things on television. And by the way, I was a huge fan of Supercar and Fireball XL5 at the time.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So this was a massive, wonderful thing for me. Oh, and also Mysterious Island, excuse me. Mysterious Island was one of them. So these were all very fantasy, special effects, beautiful music scores. And I was just swept off my feet, just taken to a different world. I was, that was a pinnacle moment, I believe, in my life. And at the time, coincidentally, my mother had just bought a piano because she wanted to learn how to play piano. And I couldn't get off that thing. I was on it all the time. And prior to that, I was always playing records. I was always making instruments out of something. Music gave me an experience that was like indescribable. It was almost transformative. And it didn't matter what kind of music it was. Where I lived, which was not far from Disneyland, we used to go to Disneyland at the time. You didn't have to pay admission to go in. You walked in like if it was an amusement park, and you paid for each ride individually. And we saw jazz bands like Count Basie, Buddy Rich, Woody Herman, and I would just sit there just with my mouth hanging open. And so this was jazz music. Now there was another amusement park called Knott's Berry Farm where they had a country music festival just about 3 or 4 nights a week, and I would see Chet Atkins, I would see Dolly Parton, I would see Buck Owens, the Sons of the Pioneers, and all these were just fine musicians, and you're sitting there practically arm's length getting this experience of watching these people create music. So and I went to the piano, and I'm sure whatever it sounded was god awful, but to me, I was pecking out something. And then I started taking piano lessons, and by the time I was 11, I told my parents I didn't know what to call it, but I wanted to write music for television shows, because at the time I was watching Lost in Space with the incredible scores by the early John Williams scores, and I was taping them on my little tiny Scott, I had this tiny reel-to-reel tape that I could probably tape all of 5 minutes of music, and I would listen to it, and I would try to peck it out at the piano. So I told my parents I wanted to become a music writer. They had no idea what that was. All they know is that I think they tolerated it. And you know, I throughout high school, I played in bands, and I was in a band. The band I was in the longest for was Crisis. And that is where I came up with the first permutation of the Killer Klowns from Outer Space theme.
Amazing.
Because we were playing Black Sabbath, we were playing Blue Oyster Cult, Deep Purple, Kiss, you know, what at the time we called it hard rock. And we decided we wanted to do some originals. So I had this Killer Clown thing going on, but I didn't know it was Killer Klowns. And they said, what are the chords to that? And I go, well, it's not really a chord, it's kind of a riff. But I guess if you put the riff together, it kind of spells out a D major 7 chord. And they go, John, we can't play D major 7 chords. That's jazz. Because at the time, I was also playing in the jazz band at school. I was playing the symphonic band. I played brass instruments. And they says, we can't do that. You know, like I was trying to corrupt, you know, the world of hard rock. So it kind of like fell dead there. And when years later, when I got called to be considered for, which I considered a major, major honor, to do music for Killer Klowns from Outer Space, I said, I can pull out my theme, that theme years ago, and this would be perfect. And the Kyoto brothers heard it, and they really liked it. The music director, Bob Hunka for Killer Klowns, who also later became the music director at Sony Pictures, he immediately loved it. He says, "You nailed it. That's it. You defined, I don't know what the hell you did, but you defined this little movie. Now we have a special little score." Because to be quite frank with you, there were other composers that did demos, and they did kind of like silly, cartoony, circusy music, and it was just like, it made the clowns look kind of silly and stupid. But you had this like disjointed, quasi heavy metalish, Frank Zappa, Beastie Boys kind of thing going on. It said, "Oh, okay, I get it. I get what it's about," you know. And the underscore for the music was, for the rest of the music, was all very classically inspired. That was played on, you know, the synthesizers of the day.
Amazing. And there's no mistaking when you hear that Killer Clown march, you know that it's Killer Clowns from outer space.
Yes. Yeah.
I can't imagine any other music.
I'm very happy for that. It's kind of like Star Wars. When you go Star Wars, John Williams. Killer Klowns from Outer Space, John Massari. So the thing, I kind of put my brand on it. And when the Kyoto brothers and I were working on the film, they just said, "Listen, you know, the premise is really silly. We just don't want to make it stupid. And the music, your music is the straight man, you know, in a comedy routine. If you have two silly people, after a while, it wears thin. But if you have someone that the silly person bounces off the serious person, you have a dynamic." And I think that's what we created visually, story, characters, and music, and sound effects and everything. It kind of came together. I just don't think at the time they understood, because when I delivered my masters back then, we recorded on 2-inch tape, and each 2-inch tape was like, at the time, was $150. Today it's like probably $400 or more, $500. And you can only record 15 minutes worth of music. So I had this whole stack of 2-inch tape that I was bringing back to the studio, and I was going up the elevator, and there were some accountants that just happened to be in the elevator with me. And they go, "What's that for?" "Oh, it's one of your latest products, Killer Klowns from Outer Space." "Oh my God, nothing's gonna ever happen with that thing. that movie will that movie will sink and die. Oh, I saw it's the most ridiculous, god awful thing." I go, "Have you seen the finished one?" He says, "No." And they said, "Well, how would you know?" You know, I said, I didn't say anything because they probably thought it was just the delivery guy. Anything. But boy, if I ever ran into any of those guys now,
Oh, they would have a different.
well, apparently, gentlemen, you were quite mistaken.
Quite.
So, I mean, the thing is, I mean, the premise of Killer Klowns is obviously, you know, fairly comical in some ways. Another film itself, you know, has more of a kind of horror element, but it seems to be one of those films that really over time has become this huge phenomena. Did you think at a time when it came out that, you know, 30 years on, give or take, that it would be this beast that it is now?
Well, to be quite honest with you, I fell in love the first time I saw it. And the first time I saw the film, it had no sound effects, no temporary music. Oh, it had the Dickies song in it, which I thought was absolutely brilliant. And that has a story on its own that we can go into at some point. But, you know, I really fell in love with it at the beginning. And, you know, when you're in, we call it now the media business, you just want to do a really great job. You just want your, whatever you do, your contribution to whatever the final project is, you kind of want to make it your own and make it distinctive and enjoy the process of doing it, because it's a very competitive business. And if you can get called upon to do something in your field for someone else, boy, you've accomplished quite a bit. And it takes a lot of work to get there. It's not as easy as it seems to be. It's kind of like the tip of the iceberg. Anytime I see any of my friends, it seems like they effortlessly are doing these incredible projects. I know for a fact that there's the other part of the iceberg, that there was much sacrifice and risk that went in to get to that final point. So I fell in love with it. And, you know, at the time, Tim Burton came out with Beetlejuice. And I thought, oh my goodness, this is a great trend in horror, comedy, bizarre entertainment, and we're part of it. you know, and we did have a theatrical release at the time, but it did very well when it went to cable and to video rental. It was the video rental place not too far from where I was. You know, it was always out. You know, people were just always out because I think people couldn't believe there was such a bizarre movie. And you know, it's the kind of thing where you cook up some popcorn, crack open some beer, and you know, whatever other comfort food and drinks you have, and you just sit back and enjoy it. You know? So, but we had no idea, really, honestly.
But I bet that it feels amazing to know that so many people do love it, and they love the film, they love the music, they love everything about it. It must feel good.
Well, it is very gratifying. I feel that I've inherited a population of nieces, nephews, and maybe grandkids around the world, and that's what is, you know, I find very gratifying, that I have this extended family throughout the world that I have a connection with.
That's amazing. So you mentioned Disney a little earlier, and you actually worked on a Disney project as well.
Oh yes, in the early days of the Disney Channel, I worked on many promotional projects to get the channel out, and you know, the concept of the whole, you know, subscribing to the cable service, that was in the early 80s. And I did a little bit Disney special here. And, you know, a year before Killer Klowns from Outer Space, I did the Wonderful World of Disney theme.
Wow.
There's many permutations of that theme, and I did one of them. I think there's like 24 or something like that. So I did one of them in the 80s. And, you know, I played it to my grandmother. I used to play my grandmother my music all the time, and she absolutely adored that thing. And I got her a boom box to play a cassette. And then a year later, I played her, you know, the scene where Mike and Debbie come through the forest and they see the enchanted, you know, circus tent. And there's this, like, music had to be finished before Thanksgiving, which is around the 25th. And my first day of recording was Halloween. It was a Saturday, October 31st, 1987. So that was my first day of recording, was on Halloween. I don't think many people know that.
I heard that you were recording on Halloween.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Okay. So we recorded on Halloween. That was the first recording session. And it took me about 2 weeks to record the entire score and mix it and get it ready. Previous to that, I had 6 weeks to compose and get all the music, or get all the parts written and everything. And so we were done like somewhere in mid-December with everything. So as far as mixing the sound, doing the color correcting, but did I see any costumes? No. I went to the Kyoto Brothers studio, but we just met in their conference room because they were creating props for a commercial inside their warehouse, and which was like an off limits. You can't know what, they don't want anyone seeing anything. And interesting note about the Kyoto Brothers studio, often when I've gone there, it's like going to, you know, it's like going to some company that's making like the latest aerospace innovation, that you can't go in their room because they're either working on creating something for a commercial or something for an amusement park or something for another movie, that they just don't want to have anyone's eyes on it other than the people that are working on it. So for Killer Klowns from Outer Space, it was in one of their conference rooms that we had one and only meeting with all three brothers, and they kind of they took me to church, so to speak. They said, these are the movies that we loved and enjoyed all our lives. And this movie, Killer Klowns of Outer Space, is a movie that we would have wanted to see when we were kids. And we like Mighty Joe Young. We like Seventh Voyage of Sinbad. We like King Kong. And we love all the scores to those movies. So listen to those. However, we want the film to sound different. We want it to be in the grand classical tradition of film music, but it's got to sound different. And so that was the decision to use synthesizers to play the score as opposed to real music. So that was it. So the vocabulary had to be steeped within classical film music.
I see. So did you get to like watch parts of the film to then give you inspiration for what you're doing?
It was completely finished when I got called in. They had all gone through all of their edits. There was nothing they had to do other than do color correcting, and they were working on sound effects. But I had seen when I saw it, all the special effects, visual special effects were all placed. They're all ready to go. So that's quite a luxury. So I didn't have to do any guesswork.
That is very cool.
Does that help you with like composing the music, seeing the scenes like pre-recorded?
Well, Luke, oh gosh, I could do a whole hour on just that itself, because there are films that I have worked on. I had not a clue at what was going on. I basically had placement cards telling me what was going on, and I go, do I get to see any drawings or anything like that? And sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't. I did one of the Puppet Master movies, Retro Puppet Master, that they gave me a 3/4 inch video when QuickTimes were starting to become a thing, and the 3/4 inch video had no sound on it. So I was looking at a silent film, and I did the whole 2 weeks that I worked on that, no, 3 weeks that I worked on that movie. I never got a soundtrack. I had to guess what people were talking about. Luckily, I was spot on.
Luckily.
For the life of me, I couldn't get them to give up. Can you transfer me another one that has the dialogue on it at least? I just need to know what people are saying. And I just, you just have to, I come from a family of very rugged individuals. My grandparents left Italy when there was a civil war in Italy, and they came to the United States, and my grandfather served in World War I. My dad served in the Korean War, and they were all rugged individuals. They just bared their burden. So I kind of learned that. I wasn't going to sit around and say, well, I can't write a piece of music unless I know exactly, because who knows what dialect this person is speaking. I don't care. I'm just going to do the score based on what I think it is, and they're going to love it. And that's just it. So I delivered the score, and it worked out. And I never saw it with dialogue.
Oh my God.
It came on DVD. And I said, oh, so that's what the hell they were talking about. Luckily, the music just happened to work. So that's my, if you're asking about, the elements that you get, so oftentimes there's a green screen, and they'll tell me, oh, behind the green screen is the entire city is burning down or something like that. Or there's going to be the Brooklyn Bridge is behind there. I go, okay, good. Or they'll actually put a graphic in there that'll say Brooklyn Bridge placed in here,
Okay.
So, you just make it happen. That's just what you do. You just make it happen. And because no one, by the way, I learned really very quickly in this business, no one likes a complainer. They like doers, I mean, you can't assume, but you're not going to say, well, I'm going to sit here and hold my breath until I get the right thing. No one, I can't even, I'm very forgiving, and I can't even tolerate that. So, so with Killer Klowns, though, it was a luxury because every shot was put in the way it was. I told the Kyoto brothers, I was hoping there would be more special effects in it, and they said, yeah, that's going to be for the sequel. We can't. they only gave us $1.28. This is what they're getting. So, so anyway, so that was a luxury to have everything in place by the time I was called in to do the score.
Awesome. Sweet.
John, if I can kind of go forward in time a little bit to, well, actually last year, and, the announcement that Killer Klowns was going to be part of Halloween Horror Nights.
Right.
So the first question on that really is, what is your history? Do you have a history with Halloween Horror Nights, either as a visitor or contributing to the event itself?
I had never been to Halloween Horror Nights until last year. And yeah, I know it's a big thing here. And I have a house here in Glendale. It's just north, just over the hill on the other side of the Hollywood sign. And I have another house on the other side of the Hollywood sign. And all I know is that I know when it's HHN is on because you can't get anywhere. The traffic is crazy. That's all I'll know of it. And I honestly haven't been to Universal Studios here in Hollywood, please forgive me, since I was in junior high school.
Wow.
Yes. Wow. So I have a good reason to go now.
Absolutely. You're going to have to go this year to go and check out their house.
Well, I'm going to check out the house. I'm also going to, every week I'm going to do a fan meetup somewhere, either at the park or at some other location, and people will be able to experience some wonderful things. I have some Killer Klowns related projects that I'm finishing that I may give people a rare peek at. And that I'm looking very forward to.
Cool.
Meeting people on a weekly basis. I'm also going to go to Orlando. I'm going to probably be there. One of the days I'm definitely going to be there is the 18th because I'm doing a DJ set at a club. A Killer Klowns from Outer Space themed DJ set. Yes.
What?
We're working on right now.
That's amazing.
Where and when is this?
That's going to be the 18th, and I forgot the name of the club.
September or October?
Yeah, it's in October. It's going to be October 18th. And the name of the club, you know what? I'm going to wait for the announcement to come out because they're going to do a special little thing. And I'm going to be doing it with my good friend Daniel, who's he's from Europe, and he does DJing all over the world, and he's helping me put this together. So as a matter of fact, I just got an email a bit ago with a link to the startup of the project of putting everything together. So I'm really thrilled about that. Do I like DJing and stuff like that? Well, I admire DJs. I've never done it before, but I'm going to do it now. And one of my favorite DJs is a guy named DJ Shadow. I remember I went to 2 of his performances, and I practically sat next to him to see how he does everything. And I says, I think I gotta do this one of these days. And so now there's a really good reason to do it.
Oh, I'm so sad that I'll be back in the UK by that time. That sounds amazing. I know.
Wait a minute, you're not going to be coming to Hollywood either?
No, I'm not. Well, I mean, magic might happen in the meantime, but as of right now, no.
When you're going to be there.
So I'm going to be in Orlando from the 25th of September until the 11th of October.
Well, okay, the 11th is close to the 18th.
I can just stay.
Perhaps, maybe. I mean, I don't think I'm planning to go on the 18th. I'm planning to go a little bit before. I was going to go there for Halloween proper because there's also Spooky Empires going on around that time. Yes. But then I found out Spooky Empire is also going on in December. So it's not about Spooky Empire. It's about Killer Klowns and the fans of Killer Klowns. Who knows? I may be there from the 10th to the 18th. So our paths may cross.
Yeah, finally.
Unfortunately for me, I'm only there for 4 days.
Well, who cares about you? I want to see it, man.
No, you know what? I'm learning more and more all the time. No one, and it's my podcast. My podcast life is now turning into my home life.
Right.
It's becoming less and less relevant as the days go on.
Right.
So I completely understand that.
Hush, Nick.
Did you not hear the podcast I did with my daughter the other day?
I got to see that.
My wife and my daughter just basically spent 15 minutes telling me how rubbish I was because I didn't like The Lion King. It was.
Oh my god!
You're definitely going to give me the links to all your podcasts so I can watch them and make nice comments and shares.
Make fun of Nick. No, okay.
Okay, so moving on to present day. Killer Klowns from Outer Space. We've talked about last year. But actually, before we do that, I just want to touch a little bit on your trip there last year.
Oh,
because you went with the Dodo Bros.
The Kyoto Brothers went like a few days before. We had different work schedules. We were trying to go on the same week, but we just couldn't. They had to be
Right.
back by a certain time, and I couldn't leave when they were able to go. But we had been talking about that when we first heard about it. We said, "Hey, did you see this? What could be going on?" And they go, "I can't imagine what it looks like. I just hope it looks good. I hope they got it." And boy, they were so happy. They looked like a bunch of little kids again when they were there, and see what a great celebration it was. And when I was there too, it's one thing seeing something, it's another being inside of it and experiencing it, because it wasn't only the people, the performers were just completely spot on. It's like the people that were enjoying it. There's a couple that their little daughter was, an infant, like 2 or 2.5 years old. Her first steps were taken in the scare zone, and she's not scared of killer clowns. She goes and hugs them and what have you. So it's just a family happening, and the guys that played the Terenzi brothers really had it down. It was just so much fun. I can't tell you. It was like I just felt like a little kid all over again.
So did they give you a heads up first and say, "Hey, we're going to do this," or did you find out after it was announced?
Well, for the scare zone, no, but for this, what's coming up, yeah, they passed. Let me see. They communicated with the Kyoto Brothers, and the Kyoto Brothers communicated with me. And then 2 months ago, I had some communications with the powers that be at Universal, the creative development people, regarding some things that are going to happen that have not been announced. Well, there's one thing that they've announced, the haunted house, but they have not announced this other thing, which I'm sure there's going to be some other thing. I can't imagine what it is, what comes out of that creative brain trust out there that's going to be just wonderful. But I'm sure there's going to be something else.
I'm excited.
So am I. But I can't tell you exactly what it is. Let's put it this way: there's always a surprise over there. There's always wonderful surprises that they leave, and I'm so happy that they waited kind of toward the end of all the they picked the perfect time to mention Killer Klowns in relation to other events.
Well, the one thing, John, that over the years with Universal was for a long time they had a Bill and Ted show, which wasn't really, it was a very loose kind of interpretation of the film. Or a comedy pop culture, like it would be that year's events, and they would like almost like Saturday Night Live, like lots of skits and parodies and stuff like that. It was very funny, and it was something that Universal had for years and years and years. And people were really upset when they stopped doing it 3 years ago. And it feels to me that with Killer Klowns, they've now managed to get a franchise in which is really appealing to a wider audience. And so I almost feel that, and I don't know what the future plans are. I mean, we've not got this year out of the way first, but I wonder if this is something that it's not just going to be a scare zone 1 year and a house another year. I wonder if Killer Klowns is something that we can see in different kind of variations going forward.
Well, this is all I can say. That sounds like a very astute observation. That's about all I can say. There are things I can tell you that last year we had a concert that we filmed and high def, and we have the concert. I just finished the first cut and mix of the concert video, which is up for approval now. And I decided, in going through the concert movie, I spoke to the sound effects and sound designer for Killer Klowns. That was Chuck Serino, who's also a composer. I think he did Chopping Mall, if I'm not mistaken. He's done lots of movies. He's a really talented filmmaker and sound designer and composer. And I said, Chuck, we have an opportunity here. Yeah. Because when we did the original mix for Killer Klowns from Outer Space, it wasn't all that. Would you agree? And they said, no. He says, why don't we take a pass at I'm going to remaster the synthesizer score, and we can really do the right job on the sound effects and sound design, where it really pans out and lends much more color to the film. And we also have the original negative that the Kyoto brothers timed out themselves personally. So
Wow.
we're in the process of speaking with the powers that be to make a double Blu-ray set on that. And that's going to be very exciting because everyone's re-released Killer Klowns from Outer Space with a different jacket, with a different poster and a different cover. But the sound from the original movie, that was, I'd be very frank with you, it was not high on the roster of projects with the company that we originally worked with. So we kind of rushed through the sound mix, and there's lots missing, and that like makes me cringe. I don't think anyone notices, but it makes me cringe and makes the filmmakers cringe. And we would just love to go in and offer that also as a new telling of the tale, and it's a different experience for sure.
Amazing. So
Yeah.
how much involvement have you, now that you know and you've been informed that there's going to be a house this year, how much involvement have you had with the creative team at Universal this year?
Well, it's basically just providing them with music elements that they need. And that's it. As far as designing it, that's their specialty. I have little experience in designing ride attractions. I have lots of experience making music. So I provided, they needed certain sound elements from the original, and music elements from the original, and music elements from the reimagined score to incorporate into the ride. Now, I have not seen the computer mock-up. I do know people that have, and they are just absolutely spinning, thrilled to death, including the Kyoto brothers. So I almost want to, opening night, just go through myself with a selfie stick. And because I think when I go through,
I'm sure they could arrange that for you.
Yeah, that's for sure. They were. Oh, by the way, when I came last year to the Scare Zone, the Michael Aiello, the chief creative director, was my host, and it gave me a tour of everything. He was absolutely wonderful. We must give credit to Michael Aiello because it was his idea to bring this together. And when I saw. When the Kyoto brothers and I heard about the Scare Zone, and then we saw Michael Aiello's tweet on Twitter where he had his camera and he was going around. Here it is! It finally came. It looked like a little 9-year-old kid that couldn't be happier. He was like at his favorite, at the circus. He was just so happy. And I told the Kyoto brothers, I go, hey, isn't it great that we have a guy like him that's speaking out for us? How incredible is that?
I think that's one of the greatest things about Halloween Horror Nights is that when you do get a franchise, they're very good at what they do with their original houses. You're taking something that is so beloved as something like Killer Klowns.
Right.
The people doing it are doing it with passion. They're not doing it because they've got a mandate, right, this is what you've got this year, make it work.
Right.
They're picking these things, and it is like going to Toys R Us at Christmas back when you could do that, and going, wow, look at all this, I want this, this, and this. They're not forced to do this, they do this because they want to, and that passion shines through because they want to make it as special for them as it is for the people that made it originally.
Right, and you could just see when I went to Orlando, there was I brought some goodies for Michael and the rest of the crew, the creative crew, and you could just see on their faces, they just like, it's not really work to them. It's like, it's such a, like an indigenous part of their psyche, that they really have it. And as I understand, some of the people started off as just, working the rides, working their way up.
A lot of the creative team did. A lot of the creative team, like Mike, like Patrick, like Charles, they spent all of their young adult and then going into their adult life working for Universal. It's mean a lot to them. They're just as big of fans as the films and of the event as what we are. And that's what I especially appreciate. I love Mike and I love the rest of the team. I think they're absolutely fantastic, and I wouldn't want steering the Halloween Horror Nights ship. I think they do a fantastic, fantastic job.
And I bet they love you, because there couldn't be a better champion of the horror and Hollywood genre than you.
Oh,
And
thank you.
there's a few other YouTubers and media people I know that it's so heartwarming to see that they not only you could tell that they're in love with it, but they live the lifestyle. If I'm not mistaken, you have body art that's reflective of the genre, if I'm not mistaken.
I do.
True. And I would call that quite a commitment.
It's a very big one, very painful one.
But you relish it, yes?
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, you spoke a little about the orchestrated screening that you had for the 30th anniversary.
Right. That you
Tell
can
us a
see.
little bit about that.
Yes. Well, you can see portions of it on my YouTube channel. That was born out of, that started back in, oh my goodness, 2013. I was invited. I got a call from the Kyoto Brothers office, and she says, "We're doing something with Killer Klowns." I go, "Oh my goodness, the sequel? No. We're having a 25th anniversary at Monsterpalooza." And I go, "Oh, good. What's that?" And they say, "Well, it's going to be it's a horror convention." Oh, cool. Okay, so what do you want? What can you make an appearance? Oh, of course I can. We're going to have a table. I go, "What are you doing at the table?" "Well, you can bring things." I go, like my laundry? What do you mean? I bring things. She says, no. If you have like something you want to sign for people, like I go, like what? Like any kind of merchandise? I don't have. What do you mean merch? I had no idea what they were talking about. This is, well, maybe you can bring like some copies of your score manuscripts for people. And so I just gave them away. Wasn't going to charge people for that. So I got to meet the cast. It was like a reunion. There was the cast and crew was there. Some of the stunt people that played the clowns were there, and the definitely Grant and Suzanne, who played Mike and Debbie, were there. Obviously, the Kyoto Brothers were there. And then I met all these fans that were just so happy to meet me, and they knew more about the movie than I did. They know all the characters' names, at which we never had the character. We didn't. I think Shorty had a name in Clownzilla, but like Rudy didn't really have a name, and I think maybe Slim did, but I didn't know their names. I just know the different clowns. I didn't know their names. Anyways, they had such an affection for the music that I thought, my goodness, how nice would it be for the 30th anniversary to put on a concert in Hollywood. Basically Hollywood and Vine. You can't get more Hollywood than that. There's a beautiful theater called the Montalban Theater. I had my good friends at the Hollywood Chamber Orchestra, which are the top musicians in town. If you look at behind the scenes recording of music scores, you'll see some of the very same people that play in those scores play in that concert. And we had 3 screens, and we had a pre-show festivities and events. We had Buster Balloon Cadwell, who's this magnificent balloon folding artist who's such a big fan of Killer Klowns, was there. There were circus performers. We had like I said, the full cast and crew was at the 30th one. Steve Kyoto directed a reenactment of the scene with Grant Kramer and Suzanne Snyder.
No way.
Yes, you'll see it. If you look on my YouTube video, you'll see snippets of it. And it was just really sweet. It was really wonderful. It was a 1,000-seat theater. We sold it out. And my wife, who was in the audience, my daughters were in the audience. They were like screaming. They said people were screaming the whole time. I don't know how they could hear the movie. Just freaking out. The Dickies were there. The Dickies performed with the orchestra at the beginning and at the end. A lot of my colleagues were there, specifically Joseph Bishara, who does all the Conjuring movies, Bear McCreary, who we work together every once in a while. Bear McCreary, as you know, the Walking Dead, and he did the last Godzilla movie, and Chris Young, who did Hellraiser. So afterwards, they all came backstage and they go, this is fantastic. What are you going to do now? I go, well, I got to do this again. We have to do this again. They were so blown away. They said, I can't tell you how much fun the audience was having. People were standing up. They would sit down, but for the most part, they were standing up. So it was wonderful. And I would love to do it again. But it was just, getting all those elements together. It took about a year to plan it properly because I wanted it to be a really nice show. Everyone that did every aspect of the show was an expert at it. The individual that set up the program, there's like a program, it's like Guitar Hero that I follow. I follow Guitar Hero, which is, it's not Guitar Hero, but it's like Guitar Hero that synchronizes measures of the music to the film, and I can conduct the orchestra from that. The individual that set that up, his name is Alex Levy. He does music editing and co-producing for Michael Giacchino, who, as you know, you know who Michael Giacchino is, yes? You know who Bear McCreary is, yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Michael Giacchino, he did like movies like Up. He did
oh no, sorry, I know exactly who you're talking about.
He did the Star Wars Rogue One.
Yep.
So his people helped me sync all this stuff up.
Wow.
So once you put experts together, all I wanted was, I told everyone that I gathered all the people that were elemental in putting this together. All I want to do is be able to put a wonderful show that the fans don't realize that they're watching the show. It's an experience. It's going on so effortlessly, and that to me was a great satisfaction that everyone enjoyed themselves. And it was thrilling to put that together. So we're going to do that again, but in the meantime, we have a concert movie. We have it documented, and it's in 2 parts. It's really great. It's a lot of fun. If you go to my YouTube channel, you'll see snippets of it that are a lot of fun.
Can I just say, I'd never heard Michael's name pronounced. That's why I was like, I'm sure I should know it, but why don't I know it? I've never heard it pronounced.
How? Oh, you just seen the name?
Yeah.
Giacchino. He's Italian, by the way.
Well, I mean, the name looked Italian.
Yes, yeah.
But,
you never had to sound it out, right?
No, that's it. It just pops up. It pops up in the Pixar films. I'm like, oh yeah,
right.
Him again.
Yeah, right, exactly. He's just tons of Pixar films. Sweet guy, wonderful composer, and so I was in good company up there on stage. I had some of the best people in the world. It's so amazing when you meet people that they don't get it right. They can't get it wrong. That's what it is. They're so expert at what they do. It's difficult to do it wrong, incorrectly. Do you know what I'm saying? If you see a very fine musician or magician perform, you're not really thinking about how he did the trick. You're enjoying the illusion. You know what I'm saying? Same thing with music. You don't want to know, like, oh my goodness, look at that person. They're working so hard. Look at those harmonies they're playing and that technique. You don't want to think of that. You just want to enjoy the music that they're performing. And so I think that's what we accomplished that night. And it was captured on camera and sound. Sound sounded pretty good too. Sound was really, really nice. So
I really hope that you do get to do it again, because I would 100% fly out for that.
Okay.
100%.
I will keep that in mind. Yeah. We had a lot of people. You know what? There were lots of people. Some people flew in from England and Germany, and people came in from all over the United States. There's a matter of fact, there was someone that's a big Halloween Horror Nights fan that came in and he proposed to his girlfriend before the concert.
Oh,
We actually have that in the bonus
amazing.
material. Yeah, but they're not engaged anymore.
Oh.
But she had all sorts of really great Killer Klowns tattoos on her legs and things like that. And this was his surprise to her. He didn't tell her what was going on until they showed up for the concert. Outside the concert, well, you see this behind me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was a mural that was 12 feet by 12 feet and that was plastered onto the theater. That's where this is from. This is like a smaller version of that. and yeah, it was very fun. We had Michael Landis. There were celebrities there. There are people that I kind of recognize who they were. I've seen them in various movies and TV shows. I didn't know who they were, but people just came out of the woodworks to see this.
I bet.
Thing is,
People love the Killer Klowns.
I was going to say, it's going to make you really proud because, kind of like what you was going back to saying earlier about when you used to play your music to your grandmother. With her, it's different because she obviously knows you personally.
Right.
You can be proud of your achievement.
Mm-hmm.
But to know that your work has had that kind of impact on people, and okay, you didn't come up with the design of the clowns.
Right.
So when you see someone with a tattoo, it may not just be because of that, but your music is, and music to films in general, are integral to what you're watching. If you watch a film without music, it doesn't feel the same. It's that whole combination, and you've managed to, make this a complete thing.
Yes. I mean, and don't assume that I am only in love with my own music. I mean, there's films, genres of film and types of film music that I really admire and listen to closely. I just the other day I saw the Book of Eli, which had a score by Atticus Ross, and it's just such a brilliant score. How he designed everything and how everything is it just works so perfectly. I actually I saw it 3 times to study that. And I actually saw it twice and listened to it twice without watching the movie, basically listening to it like a radio show. And that's how I used to study film scoring, is going to a movie theater and recording, like Ghostbusters. One of you is a fan of Ghostbusters. I don't know which one. Let me see. Oh, is it you?
All of us.
Yeah, I think we all are.
So all of you. Okay. Well, I went to see Ghostbusters probably like 10 times, and with a Sony Walkman that had a cassette that you stuck in it.
Amazing.
I snuck that into the movie theater and recorded it 2 or 3 times to get, because sometimes people talk through the movie. So I had different nights that I would listen to that had better sound quality than others. And I studied that score left and right, listened to it like a radio show. And I can't tell you, I think it elevated my music timing like by 30%, because Elmer Bernstein just has this incredible sense of timing with his music, of where the music comes in and how it reacts to dialogue. And things don't come in when you think they come in. You think that like, oh, I need to hit this on this downbeat here at this. No, sometimes he waits or he does something before. It's brilliant. And so I did that with several movies. I did that with Star Wars, where I just listened to the music and the dialogue without the picture. So you can really experience the emotional landscape that the music lies down that way. So if anyone out there is interested in studying film music, that's one of the most valuable exercises I can recommend.
Well, we've just recently, Amanda did a watch along with Ghostbusters last week, and it was my
original Ghostbusters.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was my birthday the other week, and I chose to use my birthday as an excuse to introduce my oldest child to Ghostbusters, who just turned 6. And because I think that's probably about the age I first watched Ghostbusters.
Right.
I was certainly watching the cartoon at that age, at least, but I think I watched the film around the same time, and I've not seen it in 10 years, maybe. And we watched it because that's obviously coming to Halloween Horror Nights this year as well, which I'm very excited about. But I forgot how good the music was in Ghostbusters. Everyone remembers the theme tune, the Ray Parker Jr. thing, but actually the sound used throughout the film is incredible.
Yeah,
it's very 80s, but it works so well with the film, and it just makes it bounce along, and it just adds that extra element to it that it would be lacking if it didn't have that.
Okay, let's see if we can sing the theme song to Ghostbusters. Long dum bum, yeah, it was great. That and Stripes was And all my composer friends will correct me. You were flat on the third note, and it was sharp. It wasn't a tritone. It was a extended perfect fifth. No,
That's
it's
amazing.
that was yeah, that must have been something. And there's a line in that movie that when I saw it for the first time, I laughed so hard, I coughed up a lung. It's at the very end. I think it's Bill Murray says to someone, it says, no, it's not at the end. It's the kind of at the beginning. He goes, Elon, this reminds me of the time you tried to drill a hole through your head. Remember that? And he said,
Yeah.
that would have worked if you hadn't stopped me. I don't know. It was just like, I don't know if that was in the script or if they just came out of the blue, but I laughed so hard. I left the theater. I had to leave the theater because I was laughing so hard. Because I said, certain things, like someone like they tickle you in a little spot and you can't stop laughing. It's that kind of thing. I had to run out of the theater. I was laughing. I missed probably 5 minutes of the first time. Anyways.
Yeah, 100%. So I need to hear the case of the missing Rudy baton.
The missing. Okay, so you want to hear about the case of the missing Rudy baton, not the time that I almost got expelled from university.
Are they linked?
I mean both.
Yeah.
Okay. A dear friend of mine, people say that too often, a very good friend of mine that's very supportive. He helps me out in many promotional aspects. His name is Nelson Broski. He made a baton, a conductor's baton for me and placed it on a little pedestal, and he did this detailed drawing of Rudy. And it was just the most gorgeous thing. I have pictures of myself with a few fans that night of it, and it was in my dressing room. And I remember during the intermission, it was there. Because during the intermission, I had a very, very simple request. I don't want to be disturbed, and I put the lights out, and I just listened to the Reverend T.D. Jakes, and he does this talk about the most powerful muscle you have in your body is your mind. You can change anything with your mind. And I was just listening to that, and then my daughter calls me. She says, Dad, yeah, where are you? Oh, I'm in my dressing room by myself. They came to visit me, so that was wonderful. So Rudy was there during all this. I went back on stage to conduct the after intermission, the second act, and when I came back, he was gone. So that's it. That's all there is to say. It was really sad. And I go, does anyone know where Rudy is? And he says, no. Who's Rudy? He was that little thing that was standing there. Oh gosh, I don't know. And I asked a bunch of people that saw it and were admiring it. I said, do you know where it is? He's gone missing. And so people try to look for him and stuff like that. So he went missing. I don't know if he was zapped back to the clown planet or not, but it was really sad. He was so cute and so wonderful.
Maybe.
I don't know who could sell it. No one could sell it on eBay. No one could. It would have to be in someone's private collection if it's been stolen, or if he got zapped up back to the clown dimension. I don't know.
Let's start a petition. # Free Rudy.
I will support you.
Yeah.
Return Rudy, who is the smartest and cutest of all the clowns.
Absolutely. Okay, so I'm very conscious this has turned into a very, very long interview because I'm doing what I always do, where I just go on for 3 hours.
Yeah, same here.
Really quickly before we wrap up, honestly, we're like twins. So, very, very recently, we've had some killer clowns in pop culture. So we had the new Child's Play movie, where we had a Killer Klowns poster on Andy's room wall. How cool was that to see?
That was very cool. I will admit that I knew about that back in January.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Bear McCreary said, "Hey, what are you doing?" I go, "It's like Sunday morning." Well, I'm making myself some coffee, and I'm about to. I'm starting on a Western. We're texting back and forth. I'm starting on. you're doing a Western, dude. That's on my bucket list. I go, yeah, it's really cool. It's like it's all of Sam Raimi's crowd. They have, there's a bunch of filmmakers in the Midwest, and they got me on board to do their Western, and I go, well, what are you up to, and how is that beautiful little daughter of yours and that lovely wife of yours? Oh, we're fine. I'm doing this movie. You probably know about it, Child's Play. The kid has a Killer Clown poster in his room. And I go, well, that makes sense. I think they're Orion and MGM are trying to introduce the brand bit by bit, and you'll see it's going to show up in other places, and it did, because around the same time I got contacted by the people at Stranger Things at Netflix. And the Duffer Brothers have a huge affection for many things. The Killer Klowns is one of them. And they told me, there's a few pieces of music, and I think it was like Muscle Car Clown and Mike and Debbie's Discovery and the Hidden Clown Ship. They named the tracks. Those parts of those pieces of music were perfect for the scene where in the premiere episode, the kids' toys come up to life. And I said, oh, that's wonderful. Yes. He says, can you give us the actual real, untransferred masters of those? I go, of course I could. And they have a certain kind of like ID code that comes with them and stuff like that. So we got all that taken care of. And I had no idea what they were doing until I saw it on July 4th when it showed.
It was amazing, and it was unmistakably you.
Yes, thank you. It was a lot of fun. I saw it with my daughters. They did not. My daughters are, like 19 and 17, and they had never seen Stranger Things. And so I said, "Do you mind if we watch this thing? I got some music on. The premiere episode's coming on in like 3 minutes." It was like midnight. So he looked at it and says, "What are we looking for?" Well, I just want to see the first episode. You guys, you don't have to like it. We just watch it. So like within like 16 minutes, they go, "Dad, that's your stuff, man. That's your that's your music." And to have your daughters like your music is so wonderful. But anyways, and then all of a sudden I started getting texts and Instagram messages. Do you know that they used your music? By the way, dude, they used your music on Stranger Things. Do you know that? Like someone stole it. Well, did you find Rudy? That's what we're looking for.
That's a real question.
Stranger Things is okay. Where the hell is Rudy? So anyways, that was really cool to see the way they integrated the 3 or 4 different pieces of music and made it into a cohesive thing. I mean, I couldn't have done it better myself. It was quite extraordinary.
So John, just one final question from me before we go. Is there more new Killer Clown stuff in the pipeline, or is it too early to say?
Well, I think Steve Chiodo, one of the creators, said it best. He said there was a time where I'm quoting Steve, there was a time where I said, listen, don't hold your breath. Well, I will repeat after, I will quote him in saying that he says, you can hold your breath now. That's about all I could say.
That's great to leave it on, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Well, everybody keep your eyes peeled for more Killer Klowns in the future. What an exciting time.
It is. It is.
John, before you go, do you want to plug any of your social media or?
Well, with me, it's very simple. You can easily find me on Instagram, on Facebook, and on Twitter, because I go by John Massari.
Whoa, what an internet name. Almost as good as mine.
Yes, exactly.
Your real name?
Hello, this is John Massari. I'm the composer of Killer Klowns from Outer Space, and you're listening to Boston White. And you can hear all the horror happenings throughout the entire universe. So listen very closely.
Amazing.
I don't know how we're going to get that sound effect in. I'll figure something out, but that's brilliant. Thank you very much.
Do a twinkle. Okay. John, thank you so much for joining us. I have
thank
loved
you.
this entire interview. It's
This
been
is
like
a lot of fun.
interview. Been amazing.
Well, you know what? Perhaps, even if it's at the airport when you're departing and I'm arriving, that would be wonderful.
Well,
We'll do like a romantic airport scene from a film.
and John, if you would be so kind, once you've actually gone to Halloween Horror Nights this year and actually been able to experience the house, we're all going this year, so we're actually going together this year. So we'll be able to experience it ourselves. But it'd be great to have you back on just to have your thoughts on
it might be that one day. I don't know I don't know if you get like a 3-day pass or a 5-day pass or how you go visit, but perhaps we can do that and tip back a volatile fluid together.
Thank you so much, John.
All right.
Thank you so much, John. We love you so much. Goodbye.
Cheers.
Big hug.
Thank you very much.
Hugging every one of you. Take care,
Bye,
guys.
bye, bye, bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.